My dear friends, dear Miriam, I think it is time to make a recap and to try to understand what's happening when we are focusing on the conflicts in the world. We are looking at Russia and Ukraine, we're looking at Israel and the Hamas, and we have to see the shadow of Iran behind it. And when we see the shadow of Iran fueling these two conflicts in order to expand its power and its influence in the region, we have to just open our eyes and see what's happening in Iran. Of course, we had known for 4 decades that Iran regime is a violator of human rights. It's not new, but it's becoming worse. The terrorist reach of Iran is expanding, and it's expanding here in Europe. They have a stronghold here, and we don't see it. And we need to be able to understand what's happening. In 2018, some of us, we were in France, in Villepinte, and we were, without not knowing, being subject to a bomb attempt. The police of Belgium, France, and Germany succeeded in making this attempt to fail. They arrested the criminals and they sentenced them to 30 years in jail in Belgium. Some months ago, they were released because the government of Belgium was subject to a strategy of blackmail. Iran has been detaining innocent citizens, European citizens, in order to have money exchange and to be able to obtain the freedom of Iranian terrorists in Europe. 3 weeks ago, a very dear friend of mine, a personal friend of mine, very dear friend and freedom fighter for Iran, Alejo Vidal Quadras, was shot at point blank some meters from his residency. He was in Madrid. He was lucky enough because he survived. He's alive. I went to Madrid, I spoke with his wife. But when we are experiencing death so close to us, and it's them coming after us, we have to ask ourselves how, against all logic and against all self-preserving instinct, the Western governments had adopted an attitude of being submissive, of surrender in front of the regime of Iran, and they have been consistent in having an appeasement policy towards this regime. We know that some days ago, some thread of emails were leaked to the public opinion. And then we discovered that there is a massive strategy, communication strategy, in order not only to influence, disinform, manipulate our public opinions in relation with Iran, but worse and more alarming, to infiltrate the European institutions and our governments in order to curb official decisions in our governments in order to suit the interests of the Iranian regime. This is an attempt to obtain 2 results. The first, of course, is to neutralize European and American diplomacy. We're very weak, very, very weak. And they are giving us a narrative that is very subtle, that comes from we don't know where, journalists, academics, people that are presenting themselves as experts on Iran. And we now know that those independent experts of Iran have a black master in the shadow, and that's the regime, paying them salaries in order to fuel information that will topple and deviate the decisions that are taken in our democracies. So they are really very keen and they know how to get into the fibers of our democracy. We like to be informed. We like to have independent sources, but they have been able to make us think that they are independent in order to make us think about the nuclear program in Iran, or about the terrorist activities of Iran, or about the involvement of Iran in the conflicts in the Middle East, that there are reasons. And so it's acceptable. So they will tell us, for example, that, well, if Iran violates human rights, and especially women's rights, oh, it's because it's their culture. And if we say, well, but the nuclear program, that's a problem because we don't want any nuclear country. Oh, yes, but you know, they have the right to protect themselves. And if we talk about terrorism, because we know they're terrorists, we are taking those criminals paid by Iran, most of them Iranian diplomats, in jail for what they have been doing. And they tell us, oh, no, it's not Iran. Those are individuals, and they act individually, and they do it because they are very good Muslims, and they want to just follow the lead of the Prophet. It's not only the fact that they are brainwashing us without us noticing, but it's also that they are killing the hope in something different in Iran. Because the aim of this pseudo-expert governments in order that they do what Iranians want them to do, it's also that they are attacking the only democratic organization, the opposition against the Iranian government, the National Council of Resistance of Iran, the MEK, which is the party which Miriam is the leader, the one who is the only alternative to this nightmare of the Ayatollahs. And what will they say? They will tell us that it's a cult. Of course, we women, we know that when we are leading something, it's always about us. It's a cult. When we do politics and we're women, it's hard because we're always attacked on who we are and not on what we think. But they will tell us also that the MEK or the resistance is not a force. They don't have any political power. And they will tell us also that they don't have any presence in Iran. It's just something here outside Iran, people that are living outside the country, and that they have no influence whatsoever in Iran. Guess what? All the protests from the last 6 years have been inside of Iran, presented to the Iranian people as the result of the MEK organization. So look, they have they are the masters of deception. They will tell us here to our governments, those guys don't even exist. But inside Iran, they will kill people like the people we saw that they killed, the protesters, the young people that we just saw, because the human rights violation is increasing. And it's increasing when, and with the allegation that these young protesters are members of the MEK. So I don't want to go through the details on how they build this scheme. What we know is that the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Iran hired some academics, some journalists, and they built a kind of face that is called the Iran Expert Initiative. Sounds very good. And guess what? Because they are this independent expert group, they've been hired by our countries and by the European Commission and the European Parliament with our taxes to give them advice on what should be the European policy towards Iran. Really? I mean, that's what's happening, and we're just letting it go? They are kidnapping our people, the citizens that go to Iran, tourists, nice people, young people. They go into jail with a false accusation of being spies, and we just don't do anything. And then they come and they fuel us with false narratives, and we just think that we're very democratic and we will just let it go because we're tolerant. And they are killing our democracy, and they are killing the ways and the means we have in order to confront them in all the terrorist actions they are forcing into us in Europe and in the Middle East, and we're not doing anything. When I discovered the MEK, I was victim of this disinformation. You know, I remember I have told Miriam so many times. I came to a meeting with the National Council of Resistance of Iran, and the next day, in my computer, I had all these things popping up, like information about Iran and things about podcasts about Iran and things. So yeah, okay. So I went there and I discovered that the MEK was a terrorist group, that they were communists, that they were misogynistic. Wow. I was like, oh my God, perhaps I was not in the place I should have been. And then I said to myself, this is kind of strange, don't you think? I mean, how did I get all this information? I would like to understand more and more. And then probably because I had been abducted 7 years and I could understand and see how they operate, I was kind of wanting to know more because it didn't seem right what I was seeing on one hand and reading on the other hand. So I know that what happened to me has happened to many people. But what I know for sure is that if that information is fake and is disinformation, there are things that are not fake. Not fake are the bomb attempts. Not fake is the attempt of murder to Alejo Vidal Juarez. That's not fake. Not fake is, and I'm really appalled to think that Ibrahim Raisi, which is known all over the world, it's not new, the UN knows, they have the dossier, they have the archives, they have the proofs, the witnesses, the testimonies of hundreds of people telling them that this guy, Ibrahim Raisi, was the headman of Iran for the mass murders that Iran has committed over the years. In 1988, 30,000 of political opponents, mostly all members of the MEK, all killed. He was the dark hand. Then not so long ago, in 2019, 1,500 people, protesters in the streets, but they killed 1,500 young people for being from the MEK. He was the dark hand. And then in 2022, last year, 750 young people murdered, 30,000 arrested. And that's not fake. And that is true. And those people are dying. And I think when we are confronted to such a disgrace, that we feel as Europeans, we feel, ashamed. Because we are closing the door to our countries to very good people. Muslim people from other countries, we're closing the door on them. Why? Because we haven't been able to close the door on Iran and his terrorist activities. And we're paying the price, all of us. And I think it is time that we wake up. Because I really do believe that it's not too late. But we have to do it quickly. And we have to wake up. Our European governments, all of our European governments, have to revise their policy. We are feeding the monster. That's what we're doing. And while we have dozens of our citizens from all over Europe, French, Swedish, German, all over, detained in Iran for whatever crime they have not committed, and in order to force our governments to free Iranian criminals, terrorists that we have in jail, through our justice, through our very courageous judges who have been able to sentence them into jail, I think that now we have to gather our force, back up our judges, back up our police, confront our politicians because they are not understanding what's happening. So if we want to be able to live in freedom, in tolerance, respecting each other's differences, we need to confront the monster, and the monster is Iran. And to have a chance to do it, there's only one way. There's not another way. There's only one left. All the others have been erased and killed. One way, the MEK. One way. And there's only one face. And there's only one face to freedom in Iran. And that face is that one, a woman's face.